Ashlyn, you running the video?
Ashlyn's sleeping.
There it goes. Here we are. What's up, everybody, and welcome to this week's Huddle. We come at you every Tuesday afternoon at 3 o'clock to discuss maintaining forward progress in your flooring career. Really, we touch on a lot of subjects that are flooring related, but also just general business related topics as well. Join me as always is Daniel, and I believe Jose is going to be joining us here in a bit. And this week's topic falls in line with all of our discussions in regards to bringing new people in and trying to get new people started in the flooring industry. And so this week's topic is, would you want your kid in the flooring industry? So basically we all have been in it a while maybe, and now you got children, and would you want them in this industry? So the reason I asked this question is, and above and beyond just the fact that it plays very well with previous discussions. But I've noticed a lot of smaller flooring business owners whose children don't want anything to do with it. So maybe the question should be: would you want your kid in flooring industry, and do they want to be? But for the topic of this week, would you want your kid in your child to get in the business? So I guess it's a question, so I'd love participation from the audience. Anybody who's on that can either tell a story about their child being in flooring, or answer the question and maybe follow that up with why and what you think the negatives are that would want you as a parent to not possibly want your child in flooring. Kind of stems from a lot of football players. Professional football players won't let their own children play football, and so that thought came to me. I wonder what a lifetime flooring guy would say about having their child in the flooring business. This is probably more geared towards installing, although the business in general. But would you want your kid to be a flooring installer? So that is the question on the table. I would love to hear Daniel first. Get your input.
Okay. I don't know if Ashlyn's there, but my brother's
Hey,
waiting to
Ashlyn,
be.
can we get Jose on, please?
I tried to promote him to a panelist. It declined, or he declined the promotion and then left the call.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, Daniel, for now it's you and me. Hopefully, Jose joins and Ashlyn can patch him in. So, um, let's start off with you. I also am up in my Kansas City office today, and I have my manager up here, my project executive at this location, who may join us, might jump in the frame here
Yeah,
and
I got
give
John
him.
over here too, and
Well,
I think it might be beneficial for him to come in here because his kid is actually in the industry as well.
well, let's bring him in and let's have you guys start the conversation off with one of you answering the question and following up with the why.
Okay, I'll start off. I I always tell everyone that uh, with the way the industry is right now, I would not have my kids join the industry, um, especially not necessarily like on the sales side or anything, but on the installation side because of it's an uphill battle with the installation side right now. You know, fighting stores trying to get paid what I want to. You would want to say what we think we're worth, right? But it's really what we are worth. Um, a lot of the conversations that we have to deal with, not we need to stop saying I can't afford to do this and start saying that I can't afford not to. And that's where a lot of the stores that you work for they put you in that place where you're like, I can't afford to do this and I can't afford to do that, and they essentially bully you into a spot to where you're scared to say no to work because they're going to stop feeding you, and then once they stop feeding you, you think that you're going to end up going under right away, and there's nowhere else for you to go. I mean, I felt like that for a while. You dealing with huge companies, and every single day pretty much they have something for you, and then if I end up saying no, what's going to happen? Well, we started saying no, and just like we thought, they essentially cut us off. So it was hard, and the industry is still hard like that, and I don't want my kids to be put in that same position that I was in, especially right now we've talked about my body. I'm 35 years old, and just on Saturday my hip went out, and it was my good hip, so now I have 0 good hips.
Yeah. So it's tough on the body. We know that, although things have gotten a lot better, I think, from personal, I want to say safety, for lack of a better word, like knee pads and things like that. So your personal protection items that are available to you in flooring are a lot better today than the old rugged knee pads we used to use. But something that struck me is you talked about a store, basically, it sounds like exuding controls and power over you as a installer. And when you started to say no, or maybe negotiate your pricing, you started to get blackballed at that particular store. Is that accurate?
Yeah, basically it's like you're either going to do it for what we tell you that we're paying you, or pretty much you can find somewhere else to go.
Either do it or pound sand, huh?
Yeah. And
Well,
that's where little plug for Go Carerra here, right? Because I've used the software, and we got pretty in depth with it when we went to visit you, and that's one of the best aspects of it is the negotiating part, and that's something that a lot of these guys don't realize that they have, is the power to negotiate. And
especially in numbers, right?
yeah.
Like if you're part of Go Carerra and you're part of a couple thousand other installers, and if you get saturation in certain areas where installers can stand up for themselves, and I'm a flooring store, I'm a commercial flooring company, and I want the guys to stand up for themselves and get more money from the market. I seen an interesting post on Facebook, maybe it was yesterday, where a guy was talking about, not being paid what he wants, what he needs to be paid from a store. And then some other people chimed in and said, well, stores shouldn't make any money off of my labor. To address that, companies should make money on expenses. If you're expending something out in a major way, and you're the one as a company waiting for that money to come through. Now, if installers now this is a commercial situation from a commercial flooring company, if the installers wanted to wait the 60 to 90 days to get paid, like I have to, then okay, then you probably can make a heck of a lot more if you want to make those terms with a flooring company. But the fact that we pay out every single week and we wait for the money to come through on that labor performed from the contractor, and often it's 60 to 90 days, we are financing that, and you have to make a profit on anything that you're expending or financing. That being said, The real problem is installers get on Facebook and bitch, and I'm sorry, but that's what it is. They don't do anything about it. This is probably more plugging Go Carerra than I've done on the podcast, but fact is, if they get on Go Carerra in a meaningful way from in given areas, geographic areas, if you're on the Go Carerra network, negotiate your pricing between, no matter what company you work for, you make sure you're getting you're negotiating that price up. That changes the market. The installer has the power to change the market if they gather together and do it. If you're negotiating
numbers
and your price is, say you're getting paid $4 a yard for carpet and you want to get paid $5. These are just for example. If you go to every company that you work for and you demand $5, eventually the price, and other installers do the same thing, eventually that price is, you may have to eat a little dirt and get to $4.50 and then $5, but eventually that will move up. The installers have to band together for that to happen, and you have to have a platform that can band you together, and that is Go Carerra. So that's my pitch.
Right, and
get together, band together, and have a common goal of increasing the labor. Because here's the dirty secret: flooring companies make more money. We do it on a percentage basis. So if I make 10% on everything I expend, for example, and my labor cost is $4, I make more money if my labor cost is $5, $6, $7 if I'm making 10% on it. So if the labor market, and this also goes to Go Carerra with the hammer rating, making sure that a 6-month guy that's going to go in and undercut everybody, that guy that was with a mechanic for 6 months and then went out and started his own thing, he's not going to have a hammer rating worth a darn. And he's not going to get much work in the Go Carerra system unless he goes and increases his experience and his education. As he does that, his hammer rating will increase. Then he's in the Go Carerra system. You're only competing with the same level of hammer rated person, no matter what. So the installer does have the power to make some change if they will band together and make and create positive change. I'll announce it here. We're going to have a convention for Go Carerra installers where we can talk about these concepts and where we can implement them out in the marketplace. I'm going to try like hell to make our first convention be 2023. Now, I don't know if I'm going to be able to pull that off, but that's going to be my goal. Then we can band together as an industry at the level where it matters the most. I don't care how good of a salesman I am. If I can't get the stuff installed in the proper manner and please the client, it doesn't matter. I have to get it installed. There's no value to the flooring until it's on the floor, installed correctly. So it doesn't, the change has to happen at the installer level. And with so many installers being subcontractors, similar to your article, Daniel, where you talked about companies hiring 1099 employees, which is a misnomer. That doesn't exist. There's no such thing. You're either an employee or you're a subcontractor. That's it. If you're an employee, you are paid on a W-2. You get taxes taken out. Your expenses as it relates to the business are covered. If you're a 1099 subcontractor, you are responsible for all that stuff, and the lack of control from the company is key for that relationship to work.
A lot of what I was talking about with, why I wouldn't want my kids to do it kind of ties back into what you were just talking about, and there's too many people out there that aren't doing it that way, which make the prices lower, and then they are uneducated, so they think that they have to just accept those rates, and there's no way to get out of it, which in turn makes them hire other people on a 1099 basis who don't know what they're doing, that go out
Risk
and
it.
it's just a vicious
And
cycle like that.
it keeps the price down. That's why
Yeah.
I
Race to the
got
bottom.
paid $2.75 to $3 a yard to lay carpet back in '95. Today the market pays about $4 in my area. $3.50 to $4. That is not an increase.
Man,
The guys who are
that's
willing
ridiculous.
to work for that. Now I get it. We have some jobs that are, huge, big open department stores, and a guy can still make several $1,000s in a day. But my point is not on a project by project basis, but as an industry from the installer level, if you're going to come to me and want $4 and then go down the street to my competitor and charge them $3, then you're breaking the system. You have to have subs need to understand you have to cover your costs and you have to cover expenses. And if you have somebody working for you as a sub and you got a helper and you're paying them 1099, that's not fair either. Now this guy who's just in the industry is experiencing the industry as a 1099 person for another sub, and they're getting paid even less than that sub gets paid from the store. That's where all this gets mixed up. Subcontractors, please, if you're going to hire people to work for you, make them your employee, get the appropriate insurance, get operate as a business, and then charge appropriately so that you can cover those expenses and then still turn a profit at the end of the year. So that got off onto a bit of a rant.
You guys hear me?
Yeah, we can't see you anymore, but we can hear you. So the question on the table, the industry's messed up in a lot of ways from a labor perspective, and so that's your stance. Can you introduce the gentleman with you, Daniel?
This is John Curtis. This is our
Hey, John.
project coordinator, and his son actually works here as well. So, I mean, he has that other side of it to where he's already brought his kid in. He's a few years in now, right?
A couple years, yeah.
So,
Tell us about that, John.
Well, so I was thinking about objectively if I would had the chance to go back and kind of steer him into something else. I might do that, but for me, I think it was a good fit in my situation with my son, just because he didn't have very much direction. He's working at a restaurant, and I didn't want that life for him. I was trying to get him geared into the trades. He was in a trade school in high school for HVAC, for a technical program for that, and he just didn't really like that. And then one summer he came to work with me, and I think it was probably the easy way out for him. He was just kind of, well, this is easy to work for my dad. I can learn everything from him, and I don't really have to go put myself out there and go venture out.
don't have to go to interviews and stuff like that.
Don't have to go to interviews or anything like that. So, and
Tell them the story that you told me about the gentleman that kind of mentioned something negative, derogatory toward you, that kind of helped push that envelope too. Because I love that story that you told me about that GC.
we were working on out at a school on the lakeshore, and I was just sent there just to install some vinyl base or something. Something got missed, and it wasn't my job. They sent me and my son there to install vinyl base. Well, it's a huge school. We're only there for a day. We're waiting for the GC outside, and he sees my son, and he's like, "Oh, well, shouldn't you be in college?" And he's just like, "No." And he's just like, "Well, what do you want to do with your life? Just go ahead and install vinyl base all for your entire life." And he got my son pretty upset, and I got pretty mad at him too a little bit. And I was just like, if everybody goes to college, we're not going to have anybody to build our buildings, and to
That right there.
we need people, we need guys to put vinyl base on in this world. Not everybody
Yes.
can sit and go to college and do that life. So it's for my son in my situation. I feel good about it and where he's at. He's learning. He's interested in it. He wants to stay with it. Could there be more motivation and more interest? Yes, but he's also a fresh 21, so he's got a lot ahead of him.
I didn't have the same motivation I do now when I was 21 either. So
Yeah.
I didn't
Well,
have a father that would help me. But my wife is also in floors too, so I mean we can foster his development, and I can answer almost every damn question that he has. So selfishly, I like that he's in floors because I can help him and foster him.
Yeah, I mean, you're in a unique scenario. You're with a good company, and you have the ability to kind of guide the experience of his development. And what Daniel's sore spot is from being out in the weeds of it with multiple different companies trying to make things work. I have a similar story, John. When I was installing, this came from a school teacher. We were doing a middle school, and we were doing a hallway of VCT, had some complicated patterns in it, some waves and some circles and different designs in this floor. And I got up to go use the bathroom, and so we're doing the end of the hall. I walked past a classroom at the beginning of the hall, right off the commons area, getting ready to go to the bathroom, and I hear the teacher tell her students something to the extent of, you guys keep it up, you're going to end up like those guys out there, talking about me and my crew. And so,
And half the students were like, "All right."
it was like a real kick in the teeth, right? And because the pattern took a lot of mathematics to work out and make land where the architect showed it on their drawings. And so it took a lot of the skills and mathematics that you learn in school, but this idea that you got to go to college to be worthwhile is a flawed idea.
Absolutely.
We do need people to do flooring and electrical and build our buildings and maintain our facilities and put up our high lines and build our roads and build our cars and change our oil. Those are all services. Now, that doesn't mean they need to make dick. I'm sorry for the language in this podcast. I've thrown a few but seriously, like, They need to make that. Just because they're doing a service-based work doesn't mean that it should not pay well. So my side of this is from the kid's perspective is my son was in flooring. He started working in the summers when he was 13 in the warehouse. When he was able to get on job sites, we put him with guys to learn. Would I have him in flooring? I can say that I would not be disappointed one bit if he went and if he stayed in flooring. Now, he's went down a different path, but when he was a freshman in college, he was able to get a job installing floors. Now, they subbed to him. It was a subcontract arrangement, and he was able to do some student housing and get paid $300 per unit that he laid the vinyl in. And he'd definitely get 1 or 2 units done a week and sometimes 3. So when you're a freshman in college and you can make $900 in a week, I think that's pretty damn good.
right,
And
we got a
you can
couple
do that on a
comments.
part-time basis.
Right. Jimmy says, you talk about not everyone is meant for college, but he makes a point here. He says that he'd love for his sons to be involved in the business, but in his opinion, business classes are a must if you're going to try and do the independent route. And, he says that, CFI training and FCEF, a combination of those would be really beneficial for people starting out. And then Roy Lewis says, nothing beats a trade because you can always provide, and that kind of ties into what you just said. Like, he went to college, he already knew what he was doing, so he was able to start working right away.
Yeah, because see, we made a deal. I would pay
Oh,
for his
deals.
college, and but if he stayed at the dorm, then it's covered. Well, he wanted to stay with his buddies, and K-State is where he went. And as a freshman, you do not have to be in dorms at K-State. And so he from freshman from kickoff as a college kid had to pay his own rent, had to buy his own gasoline and things like that. And so he had to make money, and he had a trade that he had learned enough that he could lay simple flooring in a simple scenario, student housing, so unit by unit, and it was flexible, which is what he needed during college, and he was able to for the first year be able to make a decent income while he was in college, and I'm thankful for that. I think that if I had it to do over, I'd do. I don't have any regrets on that, on him learning the flooring trade. Right now, I had a conversation with him last week. He started a new job at an excavation company, and he's like, he said something to the extent the conversation went like, "Well, if I need to make an extra $1,000, I can still do it." Right, so he could still do somebody's kitchen, or living room and some luxury vinyl tile or something, and still make $1,000 over a weekend if he needed some extra cash. So from that perspective, I love flooring. I love the fact that if you had to, you can still go out, get dirty, and make a living, put food on the table. So I do like that part. Daniel mentioned about his perspective on this, Jose. So what's your thoughts?
So, just like Daniel years ago, like I couldn't imagine my son putting his body through what I put my body through, and I couldn't imagine doing that. As my son gets a little bit older, he's turning into a child that's built a little bit different mentally, right? Like sports and all that, he loves that. But I can see where mindset has shifted on my part. I'm not an advocate. I'm not a good advocate for higher education. I do believe that a trade is something that no one can take that away from you, no matter what trade it is. And over the past, few years, I've come to realize that if my son wants to do flooring, I'm going to back him up no matter what. If he wants to get into the industry, I'm going to back him no matter what, whether it's on his knees installing or whether it's, taking over something that maybe in the future we built something that he could take over if it's possible. And even if he didn't, he can still come and work as he gets older and learn the trade. Because I've noticed that a good flooring guy who's well-versed can also do drywall pretty well, can also do electrical pretty well, can also do framing, can also do plumbing, because not only do we know how to read the schematics and the prints, is our work is extremely detailed. And because of those extreme details that we have to follow, the other details that go along all these other trades, like going by a book, reading off a print, although they have a lot of rules, the details and the hands-on are pretty easy to follow. And I believe that a flooring installer or a flooring artisan, if you will, could conform a little bit and adjust and pick that up. And as far as higher education being involved, if he did want to go to college, I would definitely push business class for him, because no matter what, I think business class can help if he's in the trades, or if he chooses not to go in the trades, that would help no matter what he does in life.
Yeah,
because he'll have a better
business
understanding.
can translate to a lot more.
Yes, it can translate to a lot more. He'll have a better understanding of the inner workings of how a business operates. Do I believe that my son is going to be motivated and be an entrepreneur? Yes. Do I believe that he can work for himself? Yes. Do I know if he's going to? I have no idea. It's going to be
So
all on
would
him.
you want him to be a flooring installer?
If I had to say yes right now, my answer would be yes, because I'm looking down the road, right? Down the road in 10, 15 years when he's has the opportunity to be out of high school. He's 9 years old now. He's going to be 10. So whatever, 8 years. I have a feeling that craftsmen, no matter what trade, are going to be worth their weight in gold here pretty soon because of how many are falling off.
Yeah,
And
we will.
if I had to prep him for the future, I would say the future is in the trades, because we're falling off at a really fast rate, and it's going to be hard to find someone to fill that void. And if I can give him a head start on helping or having him help me learn while I'm teaching him, I think he'll have a decent resume at 18, 19, 20 years old, whether he chooses to go to college or not. And that's my thoughts. If I had to make a decision today, my answer would be yes, and that's my basis.
You know, I watched a video about buying businesses, and you know, different types of opportunities out there. And there's this lady. Her name is Cody Sanchez. She's on YouTube, and she does these different business videos. Successful entrepreneur. She buys dirty businesses, as she says, like trade businesses. And she said because there's been such an assault on that industry as a whole, the trade industry, that it can only go down. It's like a stock. It can only go down for so long if it's a good quality stock. It's going to end up changing direction and going up. And the same will happen with our trade. We, sitting on this call, have agreed that we want to help be a catalyst to that change. You know, I think that when pay gets up there, it helps with the body breaking down because you're not working yourself to death to make a living wage.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I think that helps if we can get the prices up. And Jerry Livingston says, but subs aren't charging a rate. They are asking what we pay. I'm taking, you know, obviously store here. He says they are giving all the control over to the stores. Mm-hmm. So subs, quit begging. Know your worth. Yeah. Just
call somebody
and be patient. I mean, it does take a little bit of time to change the pay. If you'll work with your stores, the stores that you work with, if you'll work with them in increasing the pay and say, even if you take a job, and I'm just going to use $4 because that's what I've been using. If you take a job for $4 a square foot, if you say, look, I need this up to $4.25 by June, I mean, and stick to it, your store will start to do that, especially in the Go Carerra system where you have a good hammer rating, you got good kudos. I have paid more when I see somebody negotiate the price and they got a great hammer rating and good kudos in our system. Of course, I mean, the guy offers a lot less risk because he does the job so well. So with less risk, more pay, I can still make the same amount of profit because I don't have punch lists. I don't have those things that I have to go through. So I think he's making a good point that if subs are going to, and he's proven the point that I made earlier, that it is in the installer's hands to make the change. We have a platform where you can band together and Go Carerra. Outside that, get to convention, get involved with, you know, the FCEF, get involved with NTCA, get involved, whichever field you're in, tile or resilient or whatever, get involved with CFI.
It doesn't even matter. Just get involved.
Get involved and make meaningful change in your career by standing up for the value that you're providing. Don't get on Facebook and just bitch about it. Like, actually do something. that's
and that's the other thing.
The way you
too.
just said it too. Go ahead, David.
It's, you know, when people do go on Facebook and they have questions, don't bash them, man. We all started somewhere. help someone out.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't
We,
make it so hard on the new guys either. When they come into the industry, don't beat them up. Like I was treated pretty poorly as a hourly first time when I first got into flooring, getting and I'm not talking about, hey, go get the tile stretcher type jokes. Just I'm talking more like just being mean and setting you up for failure. It was like
Throwing
some of the
carpet blades at
guys.
you.
Well, I'll tell you a quick
That's
story.
happened.
The worst thing that happened to me, I get kicked off of a job, and I've only been doing the job for maybe 2 weeks or less. The guys I was working with at the company, that they were the mechanics, I was a helper. They gave me a broom and said, "Go sweep out that big room over there." I didn't know no better. Well, it was the sanctuary, and it had all this wood, all finished, all beautiful, everywhere on the ceiling, these beams going across. What do? I go in there and just start pushing this broom.
Start throwing it.
Dust was going everywhere. Had no idea about dust control. I just 2 weeks in the business. The GC comes in and just screams at me like I was the biggest POS on the planet and kicked me off his job site. The guys are in the back just laughing at me. They set me up on the whole thing. Don't do that shit. I'm lucky I'm still here and sitting on a flooring podcast talking about flooring, because I almost exited right then. A few more things that have come across is when you have a trade, you can easily obtain. This is from Jorge Ortega, or Orta. Sorry. Says you can
Ortega makes good sauce.
Ortega's, that's not a bad one. Obtain larger sums of money versus working by the hour for someone. Those big chunks go a long way as long as you keep your tools and get the job done. I think he's talking about reinvesting back into yourself when you do make that money. At least that's what I take from it. And he's got a point. You can make a lot more money as a sub, but if you're doing it right and you're paying your guys on a W-2 and you have an accountant and you're paying your taxes and you're taking care of business because you are a business owner, then and you're charging appropriately to cover all that and still turn a profit, then yes, I agree 100%. And then Jerry says again, he says, if you charge me more, I will pass that on to the customer. I need to charge my customer money so I can pay the installer what they are worth. So
yes,
I think that's kind of playing off of what I
I like
mentioned.
Jerry.
Facebook post was, stores do make money on your labor. We should make money on your labor, and to suggest otherwise is not. That would be similar to the GC not making any money on the flooring.
Yeah, it's just not smart business.
No,
the people who think like that, it's not smart business to think in that. And I'm sorry to interrupt, Paul.
No,
but if I were to tell you that at one point in my career that didn't come out of my mouth, and it wasn't like blanketing it overall, right? But it was like, for example, it was on a project. We sat down at a meeting after getting a AWA signed for prep after prep, like, hey, there's so much unforeseen stuff here, 270 something hours to get closer. And then they said, oh, we're not going to pay you for it. And we sat down in a meeting with the owners and the gentleman, the salesman that hired us for it. And he flat out stood up for us. And Mr. Tim Johnson, man, he's a good guy, a good friend of mine to this day, even though we don't talk as much as we used to. But he stood up for us and advocated for us and said, this isn't right, you guys. Why don't we lose on our margins on the sales to replenish what they spent on it, right? But there was more to it than that. And this comes out after the fact. But that right there made me realize that, not every job is going to be profitable for the store or the installer. But you can find common ground and meet in the middle, right? Because your values have to have to match up. And then we no longer do work for that store. We probably could, but we just choose not to. I'm still friends with people that work out of there, and I'm still, I want to say I'm still friends with the owner, right? It doesn't work for us. A month down the road, we find out that the company we did the work for, they did the work for, and then we were subbed for it, actually went bankrupt. So it's not that they didn't want to pay us, right? It's just instead of going through all the hassle of explaining everything, they knew that they weren't going to get paid regardless anyway. So they just didn't have the funds. But if that conversation was approached in a different way, then my mindset would have been different through that whole thing. And maybe our relationship would be different to this day.
Well,
But
you make another good point. I mean, the fact, when we're talking about should a store make profit on their labor, certainly if you consider the risk factor of not being paid and the time frame of paid, that again supports the fact that the stores have to charge appropriately for the labor. Now, if you're working for a store that's charging $15 and paying you $2, that's your fault, man.
that's
Like,
so. That would be a little ridiculous. I don't know if I'd be able to work for anybody finding out they did that. But what Jerry said too is the increase does get passed on, right? So what we prided ourselves on, when coming from the labor only, is we were actually able to create repeat customers for the stores that we worked out. And that's all negotiated work, right? It wasn't that we had to bid on things, and maybe some of it was through the bid market, but we helped them create the repeat customers so that way they didn't have to fight against anybody else. And it was because we were going to be on the project. Hey, you know what? These are the numbers. This is Preferred's going to be on the project for you. This is their niche. This is their specialty, so on. And that actually helped us increase our numbers because we started investing more into tools, more into education, more into equipping ourselves and the crews with what we needed to be more efficient, to do larger projects. We were building. And
yeah, you guys were adding value to it.
Yeah, in order
process.
to do that, you got to charge a little bit more. And we didn't just slap them and say, boom, here's the increase. No, it was a trickle. It was Daniel was like, hey, dude, like, if we're going to keep going this direction, we have to start going up. So we add 10 cents here, 25 cents here, depending on what it is. But that's slowly what we did, and it worked. And the end user understood.
I guess, would you guys agree that if a guy comes into you, he's super high quality, he says, hey man, we're at $4, I need you to get to 450 in the next few months here, maybe 3-6 months from now, I need that to be 450. Great sub, shows up on time, punctual, dependable, that kind of a guy. You'd work towards making that happen, would you, or would you not?
We would, and I think that when we've talked to guys who we were subbing for, and we've said that there was no hesitation from them to offer us a little bit more right away because they knew that they already had a little bit of a cushion because you mark up your labor, so you get rid of that, to make sure that everyone is staying happy, which only, builds that partnership up even stronger because, all right, I know that they're losing a little bit on their end to make me happy now, which is going to make me, when they're like, hey, I need you to go in a little bit tighter on this one because, I don't know, they messed up or something got missed. It makes it a lot easier to be like, done. I will do that for you right now because of what you did for me.
Yeah, that's just working with because installers that are subbing from us, I'm your client, right? I give you the work orders. I pay you every single time. I'm your client. Have a conversation with me about how we can increase prices. How can we get better? If you're just griping about it in the background or you're doing those things, I don't see the productivity because everybody agrees. Like, even another flooring company just was on talking about it, right? Like,
yeah,
we understand, but it has to be on a market level, because one store in a given market cannot just pay out 75% more than another store and win bids. You won't ever win a job. So it has to start at the level where the cost is coming from, which is the installer. I'm not, not very often am I putting the blame on the installer, but I am putting the responsibility on you guys to, as a community, to gather together and help yourselves, to help the industry, to help the stores will be better if everybody is on the Go Carerra network and you're getting work based off hammer rating, and higher hammer rating equals higher pay. That's been proven. Then it only makes sense to do that. But you gotta take the steps, whether that's with Go Carerra or going to convention and talking to your CFI group, or going to FCICA meetings and teaming up with other companies or other installers and talking to them. When Jose and I was at FCICA, there were multiple installers there, not just flooring companies. So, you have the chance to talk to other installers as well. Get together, make some meaningful change through good conversation, and then go back and implement it. Go have the talk with your store. Go have the talk that, hey, we're here. I'd like to work to here, as within the next 6 months or something, I need to get here, or 3. I'm just throwing, time frames out there, whatever you decide is your threshold there, but just have some conversations with them. I think most stores will pay to have really high quality guys. It just is important that it's awarded based on the level of quality and the level of service that you are giving to that store. If you are doing like Jose was just talking and adding value, you should be able to get paid more. If you are going to, and this is like, if you're going to stay just you and your cousin in a beat up pickup truck and never reinvesting back into your tools, and you're always borrowing tools from the company and all that stuff, you're taking value, you're not adding value. And so if that's you, make a change. Find ways to add value to the process and not take value away from the process, and then you can be in the position like Daniel was just talking about, where when the store needs you and you're there for them, and then you need the store and they're there for you, that dynamic only happens when you're working together.
Gotta have
It
them
does too.
conversations.
Yeah, I totally understand that.
Gotta have the conversations. You don't know unless you ask, right?
Tell John I said thanks for joining us there. That was awesome.
I think he's going to poop. No, he's going to his dad.
I almost spit out
So
my coffee.
I want to add to what you said too, Paul, because hopefully this isn't too far off on a tangent that from what we're supposed to be talking about having your kid, but it all ties together because we're setting a foundation for the future, right? And if we're setting a foundation that's misleading and it's not going to be truthful, and we're setting a foundation that's going to be watered down for the future of our industry, whether it's our child or not, we do have to make it known that it's about having the right equipment, and it's about being able to execute and be consistent. And that's what it is if you can consistently perform, let's just say at a higher level, if you perform at a higher level and creating a consistency of less risk, right? Like, we had a really strong run with 0 to no punch list for a long time. Do we still get them? Yes, we do. But some of them are categorized as repairs, right? But they're punch list. Yeah, but it's about the consistency, and that's what really controls the market. It's like, if you can match consistency, skill set, along with I don't want to say image, right? Because not everybody is going to follow that. Your image is whatever you create, but if you can, on a professional level, you are attracting a specific demographic, you're working towards a specific demographic, you kind of have to fit the criteria, right? And that just all falls into place with it. If you're on track for that, then stay on track for that. If your demographic is high-end homes and you're doing custom wood floors, then stay on track for that. You're not going to You're not
Well,
going to show up to,
image has a lot to do with how you perform, right? You don't have to necessarily be the cleanest cut person on the planet, but if you show up when you're supposed to, when you're scheduled, if you're punctual, dependable, and quality, and like Jerry says, you help the store look good to the customer.
Yes.
Of course, he says, I'll pay more for a reliable installer. I think that's across every flooring company, every quality flooring company, is that if a sub makes us look good, we are more apt to take care and pay that guy more as we're able to. But as far as changing, that's on a sub by sub level. And that kind of happens now. What I'm talking about is changing the entire industry to up the water level of pay. And I think that takes people banding together, installers banding together, and making some meaningful change, right. By communicating with the store that you need more, by investing in your tools, by investing in yourself. All the stuff we talk about all the time on the Huddle is investing back in yourself in education, and invest back into yourself in your tools and your equipment.
Flooring Coalition. That's what we need to start, the Flooring Coalition.
And then Floor Trends has a podcast that was released last week, I think. I listened to it this morning. It's about building market share, and he straight up said in there, he said that installers are going to be the ones that are dominating everything pretty soon, because we have the powers in our hands, right? Without us, things don't get done. And it's about that time, like you said, you can only go down for so long until you start coming back up. And it's about that time for us to start coming back up and building a stronger workforce. Because you look at things from back in the day, and, people were proud to be a flooring installer. This is what I do.
Yeah.
And now, it's not the norm anymore. Like when we were first starting, they were like, we'd show up to the job site and they were like, oh, you guys are the floor guys? Usually they don't show up till like noon. They don't show up at noon, leave at 3. It's like,
we had a thing for a while where we were the first ones there and the last ones to leave. And nobody in our area has ever seen that. And that to me was one of the takeaways from working as an employee for the company where I met Johnny, who was just in the background, was they were a company. They would show up in the morning, they would mobilize, get to work, go put in 8 hours on the job site, and then go home. And that was hard to find in the flooring industry, because there is no template, right? There is no, as a subcontractor, you as a 1099 subcontractor, you don't have any boss, so to speak. So you were kind of on your own. Hey,
stayed out late last night. Guess I'm going in late tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, I mean, those are the metrics that are tracked, though, right? Those are the things that people recognize in a really high quality sub is dependability, punctuality, those types of things. Because as a flooring company, you cannot tell a subcontractor you start at 8 and your day's over at 5, right? That's not. You can say the job site hours are 7 to 3, and we have this much work to get done. Here's your work order. You accept it. You know the schedule. You got to get it done on time. And then as long as they're working within those hours and get the job done, then you got to accept the hours of work. If the 1099 subs will just change their perspective a bit and start showing up better than, or at least as good as hourly installers, be as punctual and more dependable and add more value, the whole industry will change. Yeah. Like it is on the backs of installers. I had a Q&A thing here that says, that installers make or break a company. I believe that that is 100% correct. Like the installers can cause you, as a store, immense pain or immense pleasure. And either way, the store you have to deal with those things as they come. But what's important is how you work together. If the store's not taking care of you from a perspective of pay or setting up the jobs as good as they can, and we all struggle with that a bit. I'm not saying we're perfect by any means, but I am saying that go work for another store. Go work for another store if you're unhappy at the store you're at.
Right.
You guys have the control of your life. And again, not that you shouldn't get on social media and have discussions, and I'm not even discouraging that whatsoever. I think it's awesome. But I'm just taking some of the complaints out of that, and you can see that they're just complaining as opposed to proposing meaningful solutions. And so and there's a lot of solutions out there. You just got to explore them. So
and have that conversation, like Rollin says right here. You got to have that conversation, right? Because then Rollin will tell you. He says, "Give me a reason to pay you more."
That's about as clean as you can. That's about as clean as you can say it, right? Add value by being punctual, dependable, and being well equipped. And you have 90% of it knocked out of the park right there, And now if you can install the floor and do it in a great manner, you rule the roost. I mean, I know subs that rule the roost because they are dependable, punctual, well equipped. If they're going to grind a floor and they don't have the right grinder with them, they got another one. They grab and that one work. I mean, like, they're well equipped, well trained, and care a lot about being punctual and dependable. Those are just very important metrics for subs to keep track of themselves on.
I know we're running out of time here, aren't we?
Yep, we're running out of time.
And
always when we get on a good subject, man.
I just want to say that this kind of ties into why we started working so hard for the industry and trying to change things, is because of looking at our kids like, would I want them to do what I do right now? Yeah. And that's what pushes me to try and make them changes, because like he said, people don't know what their kids are going to do. If one day my son is like, this is what I want to do. I want to do the same thing that you do. I want him to be in a better place than I was when the first day he starts on the job site.
So, to me, Daniel, you said no, but I think you're a yes. I think you're a yes if the industry if the industry makes some of the changes that we're talking about and that we hear at the shows all the time. We start making those meaningful changes as an industry. I think that you get a better situation, a better scenario for your child, because we love our kids. We want them to have a better experience or existence than what we had. That's what every parent wants. But what that requires is everybody on this call, everybody that's listening, and those of us who have contributed, band together. Let's make some change by doing things a little bit differently. That does require a little bit of pain, but let's do things a little bit differently. Have those conversations. Let's get the pay where it should be, and let's value the installation professionals in our industry. I'm going to leave this call with a quick story. Mark from the NTCA started a talk one time. It was at Surfaces, and I believe it was at Surfaces, and he was talking about how back in the 30s and 40s, like when a flooring guy walked in and he had some pictures, like they were in these dresses.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
A nice shirt, and they had a little tie on. And now this was way back in the day, but when the flooring guys showed up, they were like, "Get out of the way! The craftsmen are here to do."
I was there for that.
Were you there? Okay,
yes.
I was blown away with some of the pictures and stuff. We can work back towards that. We just have to build back the responsibility. I guarantee you those guys in that picture didn't show up at 10 o'clock and leave at 2. So if you want that respect, start acting like it and earning it. That's all I got to say.
I like that.
And I want to tell you guys I really appreciate you joining me and having this discussion, because, you know, with kids, we you know, you want to have a better, like I said, a better experience for them, but it can happen in this industry as well. So I hope we can all make some meaningful change that improves the industry and, you know, addresses a lot of the concerns out there. So once again, guys, that's it. It's 4 o'clock. We made it a full hour with zero effort. That was very, very fluid conversation. I appreciate you guys, and tell John it was nice to meet him. And you guys have a good afternoon, and we'll catch you guys next Tuesday.
We'll see ya.
Yes, sir.
Have a good one.
All right.
Have a good one. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Recording